My friends, welcome here to this week's experience. If you're here, it means that you have completed an application for a conversation with one of our Warrior advisors here for the Warrior Launch Experience. Some of you are aware of what that is. Some of you are not aware of what that is. We're going to talk a little bit about that here today. But really, I'm going to build a case. I'm going to build a case for you to move forward into joining us here at Wake Up Warrior on the inside, not the outside. Right, the outside is a place where people get to consume all kinds of content. Maybe you were ordering one of these books. We sent you a Warrior book. We sent you Be the Man. All those things are still on the outside, right? This is like dabbling and participating in the game we call. Today, my desire is to create a container for you, for your brain, to be able to see a reason why making a financial, emotional, and spiritual investment to move forward in your life, whether it's here at Warrior or moving forward in the place that you need to move forward in. And I'm very aware that there are some of you here where your only calling and being here is that God sent you to this place for me to kick you straight in the face so that you could go to the place and find who you are supposed to be following, to wake the fuck up and have the life that you've been called to deserve and ultimately been born into. You and I live so far beneath what we have been called to be and what we've been called to experience. So consider that your time, energy, and effort to be here today, both participating with me by having your cameras on. I'm going to go into some breakouts. We're going to have some engagement. You're going to get to have an experience today that's not a one-directional, sit on the sideline, Pornhub viewing jerk-off session. This is not a voyeurist experience here, Warrior. You're engaged. This is how it works here. It's why it works. It's why so many programs that train men and why so many different men's groups don't work, because it allows men to sit on the outside for long periods of time. And our desire today is to get you to cross the line. To cross the line with your time, with your energy, with your money, to talk with your Warrior advisor and get yourself into the Warrior Launch program. So I'm putting that out there here at the start. And I'm also aware that for some of you, this is going to be your day today. I'm also aware that for some of you today, this is going to simply be the ping you need to go in an opposite direction. If you're clear about what the intention is for today's conversation, type in the word clear in the chat so I know that you're clear. Type it in. This is going to be interactive. You're going to find it. This is exactly how it works inside of our experiences, both in our hybrid and in-person events. There is a constant game of interaction and dialogue. And brother, this is what you're missing out on. Much of your situation right now comes down to the challenge that you find yourself alone most of the time. You find yourself alone in your thoughts. You find yourself alone in your decisions. You find yourself alone in your pain. You find yourself alone in your frustrations. You find yourself alone, even when you're surrounded by many other people. How many get what I'm talking about when I say alone? Type in alone in the chat if you get what I'm talking about. Just, you get what I'm talking about with this idea of alone, because this was my greatest struggle. It's what birthed Wake Up Warrior, because Wake Up Warrior didn't exist when I came searching for it in 2008 and 2009. Like tens of thousands of individuals being train wrecked right now in the real estate space who are involved in mortgages, real estate, or banking, who first pass made their big money in that industry, and now things have gone fucking sideways. Interest rates double, triple, stock market plummeting, inflation all over the place. And many men, like I was in 2008, find themselves today completely stranded. They don't know how to make money any other way. The only way they know how to make money is in the mortgage game, the way they've been taught, trained, and educated, just like me. I was a PE teacher, became a mortgage broker. Made a run at it from 2000 to 2007 and to 2008. Focused on one thing only, making money. Why? I had come from nothing. I had come from absolutely nothing. My parents raised up in a trailer. I had no money, cornbread, powdered milk. This was the life that I came from. I had no expectations of wealth. I had no concept of big money. The only thing I knew was that if you were a doctor, which one of my good friends' dad was a doctor, they had a swimming pool that had lights in it when I was in high school that would change colors. And I was like, I can't fucking believe they have a pool, number one. And number two, that it changes colors. The only other people I knew were a couple guys that made it out of our shitty little city and had gone on to play in the National Football League in football. And so that was the only pursuit I had. I thought that was the pathway to wealth. How many of you here today were raised in wealth? Type in me. You were raised in it. Some of you might be. My kids are being raised in wealth, beyond an idea and reality I could ever imagine. Live in a $25 million home. I have $500,000 cars in my garage. My wife and I go on trips everywhere we want. I bought our $100,000 diamond necklace for Christmas because I can. I don't tell you those things to impress you at all. I tell you those things because I came from dick nothing. Nothing. I'm not a trust fund baby. I wasn't given this money. I wasn't given this power. I wasn't given this success. I was given nothing. My mother raised me to believe one simple thing. If I wanted it, I needed to go get it. And so working became the only answer. Work, work, work. I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't the best in school. I didn't have the smartest mind, the sharpest mind. But the one thing I did is I'd out fucking work people. How many of you know that you're a worker? Like, you know, you'll put in work. No matter what it is, you'll put in work. Type in work in the chat if you know this is you. You might be dumb as fuck. You might be like me. People look at me, they're like, oh, he's smart. I'm not that fucking smart. I've learned a few things over the last 22 years as an entrepreneur that make me look like I'm smart, but really it's just I'm less dumb than I used to be. You know, ask my wife, I still say a lot of stupid shit, do a lot of stupid shit. I offend a lot of people every single day, and half the time I offend my family, and they get pissed off at me for operating the way I do. Still figuring myself out. So when my friend came to me in 2000 and he showed me this idea of doing mortgages, I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, dude, I walked in, he calls me up one day, he said, bro, I know you hate teaching 8th grade PE. Get your ass over here and let's, I want to show you something. This way I'm making money. I was like, okay. So I show up to the office, I got my sweats on, one sweatpant leg up, and I'm sitting there looking at him. I haven't shaved for like 2 months. Hair's fucking all over the place, hat sideways. And he holds this check up for like $4,100 and some dollars. I was like, dude, is that what you made last month? He's like, bro, that's what I made last week. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand the money. Like, I'm talking about $4,000 in a week. I was like, who are you? How did you pull this off? Well, dude, we're in our 20s at the time. I'm like, how did you even, like, yeah, fuck, sign me up. Quit teaching in the next week. Walked away from where my degree was and jumped into the mortgage industry. Learned a few skills in that. How to sell, how to talk to people, how to lead, which are all fundamental skills of marriage. They're fundamental skills of parenting. They're fundamental skills of money and business. If you're here, it's because you're facing some challenges in your life as a man. It's not just being alone. They always fall into one of 3 categories. And I'm going to tie those back into it because that was the same place I was in. I was through marriage number 1 and divorced. We were together for a year, had my son who's almost 24. Didn't want to really be married to this woman, but I was raised in Mormonism. And at the time, the only way we really thought I could have sex was to get married. So we got married, we had sex, we realized we fucking hated each other. I also got cancer at the time. Was in major surgeries, 9 of them. While my wife at the time is having my son, and we're living in government subsidized housing, I didn't have shit figured out about life at all. So when money came as an opportunity, I was like, I don't give a shit what we're doing, I'm in. I don't care what we're doing, how we're doing. I ended up walking away from the religion I was raised in. I walked away from everything. And I pursued one thing, which is a conversation to making money. Some of you right now, this is why you're here. You're here because no matter what you try to do as a man, you can't get up to speed to provide economically for your wife and for your children at a level that you know you could and you should be. How many of you know this is the case for you? Type in money in the chat. But you know money's an issue. We're in 2023. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you paint it, money is a problem in the sense that either you don't know how to make it, you don't know how to keep it, or you don't know how to grow it. Type in money in the chat if that's you. Because that was me, and that was me again in 2008. The worst part I've ever been in, and the worst thing I've ever seen men go through, is they make money, and then they lose it. How many been in a situation where you've made money, you've built the trust with your wife by making the money, but then you lost the ability or the skill set to make it, or something shifted in the game and you couldn't fucking make the same kind of money you made before? Type in hell yes in the chat if this has happened to you. It's fucking terrifying when it happened to me. Like, terrifying. It was painful. That's why I often say here at Wake Up Warrior, you only can trust an entrepreneur who has built and lost and rebuilt himself again. In 2008, everyone I knew was wiped out. Everyone. Every young guy, 100 plus guys on my team at the time. I was running a company called Investment Lending, which then became Investors Paradigm, which became Paradigm Life, which became Patrick Donahoe, one of my business partners at the time, took out on, ran the insurance company. I quit. I walked away from financial services in 2008. And the money was gone, and I was lying to my wife, and I was lying to her about a whole lot of shit at that time. Now the money was gone. Now the ability to make money, and I'd never made money doing anything else but that. And I'm laying there in bed with my wife in this big-ass house we had purchased about a year before, It's nighttime. There's a huge ass shutters up on the side of the wall, and we had this ceiling fan. I like that white noise at the night, so we play the ceiling fan. The ceiling fan's going, and these big ass white shutters are kind of slightly cracked, and the moon is shining through the windows, and I can see it across her face as if it was yesterday. And my wife is looking at me in tears as I'm letting her understand how deeply in debt we are and how big the fucking problem is in early 2008. As the market swung, I let go of all of my team members, and we are fucked financially. And she looks at me with these tears pouring down her cheeks. She says something that ultimately inspired this book right here and changed the trajectory of my life, and is going to change the trajectory of yours too. And she said, why can't you just be the fucking man? Why can't you just be the man? How many of you had your wife, your girl, ever tell you something similar to that? Like that's been the comment to you. Type in me in the chat if you've had that happen, where the woman in your world has looked at you in frustration, maybe not in tears, maybe not in the exact words of be the man, but she's looked at you with that energy and intention, with this, what the fuck, get your shit together, just be the man. And that was me. Like I had built something, but now I had nothing. And what it exposed was how weak of a man I'd become as a husband, as a father, as a spiritual leader in my home, how weak I'd become as an individual the minute the money disappeared. And so I started searching. I started searching for an answer I didn't even know. I literally was typing in how to be the man in the internet. There's nothing back in 2008. There's no men's programs. There was programs in the past based on churches, wanted nothing to do with that. I was like, I'm done with the church game, get the fuck out of here. I need to find answers. And so I started pursuing, but my life kept getting darker. I go down a path, I have an affair, I cheat on my wife, I become completely addicted to alcohol. I'm finding myself in this dark place that keeps getting worse. How many of you found yourself in a place where you not only were fucking things up, but it seems that your patterns and your destiny was to fucking make it even worse with just stupid decision upon stupid decision upon stupid decision? Type in yes in the chat if this has happened to you in the past. And possibly some of you are doing this shit to yourself right now. And so I was stuck. And the worst part was I had no one to talk to because I was a liar. This is a hard truth to come to as a man, and it was for me at that time, and it's why it sits as the foundational principle that we operate on here at Warrior, which is this gateway experience that came to me at that time was a real reality and a realization of just how big of a liar I was. That your lies are the current scales that cover your eyes. This is why you're drawn to this message, by the way. That's why I may talk different than what you've heard in the past from other individuals. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a preacher. I'm a businessman who found some answers. And it started at the bottom of the barrel, lathered up and wrapped up in a bucket of my lies. But see, there's two kind of lies, gentlemen, that you and I are telling ourselves every single day. And these lies exist both in lies that you commit and lies that you omit. The shit that you say and the shit that you don't say. For most of you, you're not blatant liars. You don't wake up every day necessarily looking to lie to the world. But you just stuff the truth and you don't say what you're feeling. You don't say what you're thinking. You don't say what's really going on in your head. You don't tell your wife what's really happening. And that's what happened to me. I couldn't tell my wife the truth. I could tell a random woman I just met, I could tell her the truth. But I couldn't tell my wife. It was painful. It was unbearable. And if one more person had quoted me scripture from the Bible, I swear to God, I was going to knock them out with the book. Like I was just different, and I thought I was alone in being this different. I thought I was alone in who I was. I thought I was alone in my pain. And there, sitting at the bottom of the bucket and all these lies, came an answer to the path to freedom. And it was to stop fucking lying. How many know right now one of the bigger issues is the fact that you just lie to yourself? And or you lie to your wife, or you'll lie to the people around you. Type in liar in the chat. This is where we start, by the way, here at Wake Up Warrior. You can't acknowledge you're a fucking liar. Don't come here. Go away. Go hang out with Joel Osteen. Go to some happy, clappy pastor church and get the fuck out, because you will not survive in this place. To survive here, Wake Up Warrior, and ultimately obtain an outcome I'm going to paint for you here in a moment, and then we're going to talk about the pathway to pull this off, is going to require work, and it starts with telling the fucking truth. And so that sparked a movement of a series of decisions: the code, the stack, the cord, the door, the game. But what was the game? The game was the following. There was a question amidst the truth that came to me, and the question was it possible to have it all? Was that even possible? Is it possible to have it all? What did that mean, have it all? Looking at the conversation of warrior, we look at having it all across 4 domains: across body, being, balance, and business. Having it all, as expressed in the book of Genesis, when God speaks about dominion, this is what we say he is referencing, which is the division of life across 4 domains accessible at the same time. See, I knew fit guys who were broke, and I knew wealthy guys that were fat as fuck. And I knew guys that were fit and had a ton of money who were shitty as husbands and fathers. And I knew guys that were great as husbands and fathers, but were shitty at making money and fat as fuck. And I watched this cycle happen. I knew men that were deeply fit and spiritually on fire, but couldn't put shit together for relationships or the conversation of money. How many get what I'm talking about? Type in "I get it" in the chat. Type in "I get it" in the chat when you see this, because this is the reality of what you and I have been taught as men. From the time we were born, we were taught one simple reality, and that is, if you can get paid, then life makes sense. Our assumption is, if we get paid, then we will get laid. It's the assumption. If I make money, then I'll get some honey. How many have made the assumption before? Type in "me" in the chat. Well, if I'm just successful financially, then I'll get laid sexually. If I just produce enough for my wife financially, then it'll be enough for me to have sex. She'll want to be in it to win it with me. Well, I thought the same thing. Didn't work. If I were to describe my sex life with my wife, it was vaginal masturbation. That's what my sex life was like. So the context around me cheating was the fact that we had intermittently had sex for about, once every 4 to 5, 6 weeks for about 2 years. And when we did have it, it was vaginal masturbation, which was essentially exactly like your mind's thinking. Like, I'd have to grab her ass while she's laying on top of me and move her body. And I'm having this moment one night where I'm doing this and I'm thinking to myself, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, I'm thinking to myself, you're basically jerking off in your wife's vagina right now. How many have had an experience exactly like I'm talking about with your wife, though, where it's become this, oh my God, it's a chore, vaginal masturbation style? Type in "hell yes" in the chat if you've had this experience. Don't bullshit, you don't lie, because guess what? I got 55,000 men who have come through this program, and 98% of men know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a unique unicorn group of 2%. Those men never last here. We're not for those guys. We're for you and me. Guys who want this life, yet we have been dished out a reality that makes no fucking sense. And so there's this struggle with the conversation to making money, and there's this struggle with the conversation to getting honey, or having sex and intimacy and connection with your wife. How many of you right now are married? Type in "married" in the chat. Type in "married" if you're currently married. If you're not married, you're in a significant relationship, that's fine. Don't type it in. Just type in "married." If you're married, type in "married" in the chat. Being married is crazy. Like, it's a bit crazy. Like, look what you thought about as a man. You're like, I'm going to lock myself down with one woman, one vagina. And I'm going to hope that that vagina, when I work real hard, is going to put out that there's going to be some connection there sexually. Yet the reality is 75-80% of most marriages are in sexless situations or in vaginal masturbation. Not only not satisfying, men are going to pornography to jerk off just to try to deal with the inability to connect with their wives. How many of you can relate to this as a married man? Type in me in the chat. It's not that your wife's a bitch either. It's not like you're like, I hate my wife. In most cases, it's not the case. It's not that I hate my wife. It's not that I'm angry at my wife for that. It's that I have no idea how to deal with this crazy game called being married. And that was me. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I didn't know how to do it. So I'm over here trying to figure out the money game. I'm over here trying to figure out the married game. And then we go off and we do some crazy shit. We go off and have what? Type in the chat. What do we go off and have? We decide to do something crazy. In one of the few vaginal masturbation sessions, I let loose some of the live fire, and what do we end up with? Some kids. When I cheated, my wife was pregnant with our second daughter. By the way, this is when it typically goes down, is during pregnancy or after. At least that's what we found here at Wake Up Warrior the last 10 years. So now you add the conversation of kids. How many of you can admit right now, being a father to teenagers or young kids today, teenagers middle school age or even early 20s, that it's a complete fucking shit show? Type in hell yes in chat if you see exactly what I'm talking about in today's society. Social media and what's happening with cell phones and transgender and bisexual and whatever the fuck and who knows and Balenciaga. It's insanity, from political conversations to money conversations. When we sit in a place where the current narrative is trying to cancel culture is trying to cancel the song, baby, it's cold outside, I really can't stay, baby. That song, Christmas song from my grandparents' generation, that song is rapey. My kids' generation is trying to cancel that song for Christmas because it sounds a little rapey. Meanwhile, the #1 song in the country is by Megan Thee Stallion, and her song is Wet Ass Pussy. I'm like, what the fuck game do we live in? The shit you and I went through as men the last 2.5, 3 years with COVID, your kids coming home from Zoom school, trying to run online. Hell, we can't even figure out Zoom basic ourselves, and now our kids are going to sit in front of Zoom for 8 hours, and you're now a homeschool parent? This shit is out of whack. And guess who the world expects to solve this problem? Type it in the chat. You. You notice how all of the characters in all of the major Marvel comics and all the movies have become women? Anybody notice this? Type in yes in the chat if you've noticed this happen in the past 2 to 4 years. You notice this? Men are made out to be fucking idiots in every single movie. They went from being heroes, Superman, Batman. Now men are just looked at as idiots. Are you kidding me? There's a movie that came out recently called Woman King. Like, there is an assault on men in our marketplace that is far more fierce than when I stepped into the game 10, 12, 13 years ago. When I was stepping into the game of trying to figure myself out, and we launched Warrior over a decade ago in 2012. The assault wasn't there like it is now. It is insanity today what you're being bombarded with every single day. The church has watered itself down. Everything has become toxic. And you as a man are broken, wrong, and dumb for wanting and desiring natural things of a man today. The crazy part is your wife and children, your daughters, are being empowered by a marketplace that tells women they don't need men, while at the same time, men are the first ones they fucking call when shit goes sideways. I can promise you who's not going to show up to the front lines at nighttime when your house, somebody's trying to break into your home. You're not speed dialing some transgender purple-haired freak over here that wants to fucking show up to the house. You're calling a man who has a weapon to come protect you. But my kids are being slammed with this shit all day long. What chance do you have as a father to compete with that with your kids? You're trying to compete with 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, 10 hours of social media, bombardment of propaganda in your children's brains through TikTok and Instagram reels, and you think as a father you even have a chance to compete with this shit? The narrative that's being thrown at your wife about what a man is, what a man's not, what a man is, what a man's not, what you and I are being taught. It was hard enough to be a man before all this bullshit. Now here we are stuck in a situation saying, how do we get out? Most men have settled into just surviving. And it's sad. How many of you commit at some level in your world? Might not be in every area, but in some area, either in the game of business and your money or balance in your marriage, that you've sold out. You kind of tapped out. You quit a bit. Type in me in the chat if you've done this. Most men I meet today are just surviving. And by the way, that doesn't have anything to do. The fit ones, the fat ones, it doesn't matter. Tall ones, short ones, black ones, Latin ones, white ones, Asian ones, it doesn't matter. Canadians, Americans, Europeans, it doesn't matter. It's the same shit, same narrative over and over and over again. Society is attempting to box you and I up and throw us fucking away. And this started over 100 years ago in the Industrial Revolution. There were a couple interesting things that went down during that time about this idea of money, marriage, and kids, is that the world started pushing you and I out of the house. Feminism came in and began to push marriages apart, teaching women they don't need men. Then add into it what you and I are experiencing today with our information age chaos and that cell phone. And all of a sudden, we have a concoction that has become very confusing to operate in. How many agree that it's a bit confusing at times when you slow down, you're honest with yourself? It's become a bit confusing as a man. Type in confusing. If you can spell it. If you can't spell it, fuck it. Make your best attempt. It was in this confusion that I was searching for answers. So when people see me in Vegas this last weekend on New Year's with my wife, and we're doing a shopping spree, and we spend $25,000 in like 5 hours doing this fun shopping game with her, and they see the cars, and they see my home, and they see the jets, and they see the trips, and they see all these things we've done in business, my wife and I together across multiple different brands. When they see what we have done, and Warrior is just a small piece of what I do, but it's the piece that matters the most to my heart. People see this and guys see this and they're like, how did you pull that shit off? And I was like, bro, you have to go back to the beginning. How did you get to a place where your son, who you were gone from for 10 years, you abandoned him for 10 fucking years. How did that son not only come back into your life, but become part of your life? Call your wife, his stepmom, mom. How did he move into a place being someone you could love and trust? How did you turn shit around with your daughter who found herself in wilderness therapy camp after being sexually assaulted down the path with drugs? How did you put your family together? How did you find a connection with God that seems to defy anything any of these pastors or these ministers or these preachers are talking about? You have found a truth that's beyond scripture, a truth that's beyond what people tell you. You seem to be able to just tell people to fuck off. How do you do this, plus have the money, plus have a marriage where sex is happening 3, 4, 5 times a week, and it's deep and it's connected and it's passionate and it's normal and it's natural? How are you at 46 walking around with a six-pack every single day? How is it possible that your children want to spend time with you? And why does it seem like no matter what you do, the game keeps growing? And how is it possible that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men are doing exactly what you're doing every single day? I said it's simple. It's called the Warrior's Way. It's what you got in this book when you picked it up. Pretty thick book. We sold this book for $100 for years. Sold this book in 2015. It was the first attempt, along with Be the Man, the book, to be able to get these ideas into the minds of men like you. 2012 was our first launch. We had the first 5 men come in December of 2012. Why? Because my life was working. Men knew how much of a train wreck my life had become. They knew how much of a train wreck my life had become in money. They knew how much of a train wreck my life had become in marriage. They knew how much of a train wreck my life had become with my kids and my family. They knew how bad things had gotten, and when they saw me start turning things around, they were like, how the fuck did you do this? How did you pull this off? I said, it's simple. Warrior's Way. And the best way I can describe it is that God led me step by step. I didn't know it was God at the time. I called it the voice. Because I had walked away from religion. I wanted nothing to do with religion. I didn't want anything to do with Christ. I didn't want anything to do with God. I wanted nothing to do with anybody. I didn't want to do anything with anyone from that place. So I went the opposite direction. I pursued a truth that was beyond anything I'd known before. And as I was pursuing that, I started to notice that there was this challenge that existed in the marketplace. And one was the conversation of money and the conversation of spirituality. When I would talk to individuals about the conversation of spirit and this idea of feeling whole, because I felt so empty, it seemed that everyone that talked to me about it from that place was broke. And then I would come over to the conversation of money and I would talk to all these guys over here and I would talk to them, and just like me, most of those guys with money were hollow. I'm going to get what I'm talking about. Type and I get in the chat that you've experienced this dilemma. Dudes that bank and get money kind of don't have a whole lot else going on. And then you got guys that are so deep in the conversation of God or Christ, but they're kind of worthless as tits on a bowl in the game of money and life. You're like, dude, I hear you. It's like when I listen to pastors, I don't have a problem with them. I really like pastors. I think they're great. They're doing a lot of work. I don't want to be a pastor. Wish them best of luck in what their calling is. Good for them. But I look at them and I said, dude, your full-time job is to preach the game of Jesus, and the only reason people give you money is because you use the name of Jesus. I was like, but what do you actually know about business? Knowing that your church is a business, I hear you and I understand you, and I'm not disrespecting that at all. I love it. I agree. I appreciate it. Well done. I was like, but what do you know about being a businessman? What do you know about running a company? What do you know about writing checks? What do you know about being a married man with children and running a business at the same time? And this was the dilemma. We called it the trifecta of insanity. And men came knocking, trying to figure out how to make more money, how to have more sex, more connection, more communion with their wife. They didn't want to cheat. They didn't want to go find some other woman. I'm not interested in some 28-year-old with nice titties and an ass on the Instagram. I don't give a shit. But it's hard to not give a shit about that as a man when the person that you want it with the most refuses your advances, refuses your approach, and the pattern has become rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection until you get to a point that you're just traumatized by the whole thing. How many have gotten to a place inside of your relationship where you love your wife, but you feel like you're a prisoner inside of that game, particularly when it comes to sex? Type in the word prisoner in chat. I was a guy who started begging for hand jobs. Like, I just wanted to be touched. And I couldn't understand it. I was like, I don't understand what I have done wrong as a man to end up being in a place where I'm supposed to be, I'm looked at as this perverted teenager with my wife. I was like, I fucking married you, woman. And I realized I've done a lot of stupid shit as a man. And a lot of that was training and teaching I got from the church, teaching and training I got from society, and my interpretation of what the marketplace was telling me. And so inside of this place of being a prisoner, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do this anymore. Some of you got the relationship game figured out, but you're a prisoner to money. You're stressed out because gas prices go up. You hear the idea of $12,500 to come into Warrior Launch and your balls shrink up and you panic. The fact that $12,000 is a problem for you, that is the fucking problem. Do you understand this? And the crazy part is the money problem and the sex problem, they're solved with the same strategy. What makes you successful in making money also is the same skill sets that allow you to have sex in a way, in a relationship with your wife that defies logic. Defies logic. I'm sitting there on New Year's Eve having sex with my wife in our hotel room at the Wynn before we go down to the club. Pull my wife's short skirt up, and I'm telling you, this is how I roll. I'm fucking very real with you about it because I don't want you to pretend like somehow I've just magically figured shit out. I'm the same guy begging for hand jobs over a decade ago whose wife was stockpiling money on the side to fucking leave me. And here we are having sex in the bedroom. The windows are big mirrors. We don't realize they're big mirrors. My wife's watching, we're talking, we're having conversation, and we're yelling and excited and having passionate sex with each other. Literally having dialogue, not like we're talking about the weather, talking dirty to each other, having fun and being in. I've been with this woman for 22 years. We get done and my wife puts on lingerie and she walks around the room. It was a little reverse order, but she did it. Then we put back on some other clothes. We went down to the club and we danced until midnight. We've been together for 22 years. We're laughing the next morning, walking around. She's like, this is our life. We created this shit. Fuck everybody else. I was like, I know. And although the things and the situation may be different, I've never met one man who doesn't want a sexually unleashed woman. Not one man. I don't know of one man, no matter how conservative his khaki pants and his plaid shirt is from the Midwest, I don't give a shit how conservative you are. Every man has a piece in him that wants a sexually unleashed woman. Type in hell yes in the chat if you agree with this. You might be one of the unicorns. You might be one of the 2% that doesn't. You want a conservative woman who just pumpy, go to sleep, hope you're happy. Me, on the other hand, that's not what I want. It's not what I want all the time, need all the time. But I wanted to be in a relationship with a woman that was sexually unleashed. I wanted her to feel free in her relationship with me. I wanted to feel free. I didn't want some stripper. I didn't want some girl on Tinder or Bumble. I didn't want to cheat. I wanted her. How many situations with your wife right now, you want her, but you're unable to cross the chasm between where you are to where she is to make that happen? Type in me in the chat if that's you. It's like you love her. You're like, you're my girl. I don't want somebody else. I don't want to trade you in for a 22-year-old. You are the one I want. And many of you are in a situation where your wife is like all hard on herself because of her body, but you still are attracted. You're like, dude, listen, like my wife, when she is pregnant, 60 pounds, 70 pounds overweight, having a baby, I'm all about it. Titties get big, I'm all about it. I love it. Ass gets big, I'm all over it. I love it. I'm good everywhere. She's like, you're crazy. You love me like no matter how I look. I was like, I know. That's why I chose you. Like, I want you. I don't want to put my penis in another vagina. You're mine. I want that. That's it. I want you and I want to go to bed with you. I want to cuddle with you. I want to be able to tell the truth to you. I want you to be able to tell the truth to me. On the flip side, not only did I want that, I wanted the money. I'm going to ask you an interesting question. I want you to do this. I want you to just please participate in the game. Take your take home from 2022. And type that number in the chat for yourself, just for yourself. In Warrior, we do shit like this all the time. You're going to see I share completely. We open the books up. I show you my world because I don't want people to get into this idea that I'm some fucking charlatan, that I just am some hypocrite that makes some shit up. This is why there's nothing. You can't find shit about me on the internet that's a smear campaign. Even the New York Post tried to do a smear campaign on me. They couldn't. They had to spin it into a $10,000 man cult that turned out to be an amazing article for us. Why? Because there's no fucking dirt here. Because there's nothing to hide here. So this situation, I want you to look at your number that's up on the chat right now for you and look at the numbers around you. I want you to take that number and I want you to multiply that number by 10. And then take that number you just multiplied by 10 and type that number in the chat. Type it in the chat so you can see it. Take your number. I know some of you aren't so good at math. I'm a PE teacher, so I get it. That's my degree. So, the math isn't so fast for me either. That's why I make it 10. It makes it easy. Put in the number 10 of what you see. So here's the crazy part. Here's the crazy part. Watch this. There's a version of you that sits at the first number today. Let's call this number 80,000. There's nothing wrong with $80,000. There's nothing wrong with $80,000. It's a fantastic dollar. You're like, cool, it's a great number. Depending on where you live, what your expectations are. And then we play this out and we say, okay, well, what is 10x that number? And we'll come over here and we say, all right, now I'm dealing with $800,000. The difference between these two men is fucking radical. Like, radical. They don't live in the same homes, drive the same cars, go to the same restaurants, fly in the same planes. They don't go on the same vacations or wear the same clothes. They don't hang out with the same people. They don't go to the same, they don't do anything the same. The second guy, this you over here, this guy hires the current version of you. You today works for that version, is employed by him. How many can see what I'm talking about with this right now? Type in I see it. Type in I see it in the chat if you can see what I'm talking about right here, because I want you to see there is a version of you that is available right now. right now, today, 10 years ago, roll it back 20 years ago, and you'll see a version of you that existed that is now fought to become the version of you today. The crazy part to think about is that there is a version of you that takes home $8 million a year. This guy doesn't even think the same either. This guy doesn't even know this employee over here. This guy hires the guy at B. The guy at B works for the guy at C. Now, the crazy part is this version of you exists right now. Exists right now. I've lived in $200,000 homes, and I live in a $25 million home. I've rented. I've had nothing. I've built big shit. I've lost big shit. I've built even bigger shit after. The crazy part I never understood was that I was always there. I just didn't have access to all of me. The version of me that purchased a $100,000 necklace for my wife for Christmas, that lives in a $25 million home, that drives $500,000 cars, that does the game the way I do it in my world today because I can, because I've done the fucking work required. As a businessman, as a marketer, as a closer, as a salesman, across multiple industries, from financial services to hair industry to software to supplements to what we do here at Warrior. I've done the fucking work to do what? To reveal the higher level version of me as a producer. It's not luck. It's not fucking luck. Nobody gave it to me. I'm not lucky. I read the books that most men wouldn't read. I hired the coaches they wouldn't hire. I invested in myself in programs they wouldn't invest in. I hired mastermind partners to help me. I put consultants in my world. I was willing to do with my time and with my energy and with my money what they were unwilling to do, and I was willing to do it over and over and over again. And I was willing to do it in 4 areas. I was willing to do it in my body. I'm 190 to 192 pounds right now, walk around 6-pack. People are like, dude, you're 46 years old. Like, dude, you just, you got good genetics. You've never been really fat, so you don't really understand it. I was like, exactly. I've never been really fat, so I don't understand it. That's not like an excuse for you to be fat. It's not. I'm fit because of the shit I do. It's not luck. The way I eat, the way I train, the way I sleep, the way I meditate, the way I supplement, it's not lucky. So part of what has to shift in your psychology is we have to get rid of this idea that any of the results that you see outside of you are luck. If somebody has something you want, they have a life that you want, they have a peace that you want, you can go get it. It might look a little bit different for you. Your level of fitness and what you're pursuing may look different for you, but it's going to require the investment of time and energy and money. Being and spirituality, people look at me and they're like, how do you get so certain? How are you so present? How are you able to think through things? How are you not even affected by what so many people think and say about you? How do you have such deep communion inside of the tools of the stack here, Warrior, with God? Like, how is that even possible? I was like, because I put in the time, energy, and the money. That's it. I have the reps that you don't have. The only difference between me and you is reps. That's it. Balance. How did you put shit back together with your wife? It's a woman who was out the door. She was leaving you. You cheated. You were a fucking cheater. I was like, I know. That guy's dead. I killed that guy. He's done. I murdered that motherfucker and buried him a long time ago. My marriage isn't luck. I saw it and I invested time, energy, and money to build it. I built that marriage. I built this relationship with God. People are like, you can't say fuck and then talk about God. I was like, I just did. And unfortunately, all of your memorized scriptures will never equate to my fruit. Because in the scriptures, it says, by their fruit you will know them, not by how many scriptures they memorized. Unfortunately, it's not what you say that will allow us to identify you. It's your fruit. You want to know my fruit? Talk to my wife. My wife's public about everything. Talk to my children. They're public about everything. Talk to me. I'm public about everything. People are like, oh, well, you know, what do your kids think about this? I was like, come to my house and see. You're going to find out I live the same all the time. Why? Because I was sick and tired of being a prisoner in my own life. My money, it's not luck. It's not luck. It's not because I'm white. I was sitting down with one of my friends, brother, black man, and I said, listen, I got a question for you. He said, yeah. I said, can you tell me right now that the reason you do not have the financial results that you want is because you're black? He and I know each other like 7, 8 years. I was like, is that why? Like, because if it is, dude, tell me. And I'm open to seeing some things from a different place. I was like, but I've known you for 8 years. So you tell me, do you not have the money you want because you're black? And I have the money I want because I'm white? Is that what it is? Talk to me straight. Tell me, what is it? He's like, well, no. And I was like, then what's the reason? I was like, oh, that's right. You won't do what's required with your time, your energy, and your money. It has nothing to do with race, so shut the fuck up. I love you. Stop being a fucking victim. Is it because of religion? Oh, I'm Muslim, I'm Jew, I'm Christian. It has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is your commitment to what? To do what's required. Most men will not do what's required, and then they act like victims and blame everyone around them, and I did this. I was a victim to my wife, a victim to my life, a victim to my marriage, a victim to my business, a victim to the society I was raised in, a victim to the religion I was raised in. And that was nobody else's fault. That was my fault. And so I had to make a decision. What was the decision? Am I going to do something different about this? Regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of nationality, are you committed to doing something different? Because the sex you want, the money you want, and the life you want is going to be fueled by the business that you build, and the business that you build is the business of you. So I have a question for you. I want to pause right now. What are you hearing me say? I'm going to call on a couple of you. I'm going to call on Kenneth, Israel. I'm going to bring Israel and Kenneth in. We're going to talk for a second. Kenneth, share with me. What are you hearing me say so far? What are you getting from this? Go ahead and mute yourself, brother.
I'm getting that in everything, it's the time we put in, the time, the money, the energy, or the lack of. And we've been not putting the time, the energy, the money in. That's where we are. And because we're not stepping up and putting in the time, the energy, the money, it's our fault. It's my fault. 100%.
Why is that good news that it's your fault?
It seems so easy, but it's not.
Why is it good news that it's your fault? It's good news it's your fault. It's not Israel's fault. Like, your results aren't Israel's fault. It's your fault. Why is that a good thing, though?
It's my fault.
Why is that a good thing?
Now, I know that it's my fault, and I can change it. I can step up and put the time, the energy, and the money into it, and I can change it.
Yes.
I can do that.
Yes. How old are you?
47.
47. Look at you trying to skip out on a decade. Yeah. 47. You and I are the same age. Well, I'll be 47 this summer, so not quite. Right? So we're right in that same pocket, though. You know, like 1994, 1995, high school graduate, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Israel, how old are you?
I'm 53.
53. Israel's like older than us, bro. He's like rolling out of high school when we were in middle school. We're like, that fucking Israel, he's too old, dude. He's like, got all the girls. Then we got older. And we're like, then it goes the opposite direction. We're like, yeah, now we're the young stallions. He's getting older. So this piece that we're searching for, what's the one area right now for you, Kenneth, that's the most frustrating? Like, just body being balanced business. What's the area for you that just like perpetually seems to be the most irritating and frustrating for you?
right now there's a lot, but probably the balance, even on my body, I know what to do. I just let my body go. It's frustrating. But I know what to do. I just haven't been doing it. Yep. I know what to do, and I'm not doing it. And balance, I'm just not committing the time, I'm being lazy and not being present, not being there. So probably the biggest and probably balance. If I can get the balance in my body in line, then I feel everything else is, I don't know, it would just roll. It would roll through.
How long have you been married?
This time, 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
I'm divorced. Yeah.
Okay. So it's your second marriage?
I'm sorry?
Is this your second marriage?
It is. Yes.
Okay. Israel, are you married?
Separated at the moment.
Okay. Is this your first marriage?
Second.
Second. Okay. How long were you married the first one?
8 years.
8 years? I was married for 18 months in my first one. How long were you married your first one, Kenneth?
16.
16. And Israel, how long have you guys been together, the marriage you're in right now that you're separated?
7 years.
7 years. Did you choose to leave her?
Married for 5, together for 7.
Okay. Did you choose to leave her or she choose to leave you?
She chose to leave me.
Okay. What was your reason for that?
Mostly, I didn't follow through with the things that I told her I was going to do. I made a lot of promises that I did not keep. And, I don't really blame her, but, it still hurts.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest promise you made to her that you didn't keep?
Buying a new house.
And why didn't you buy her a new house?
I did not have the money at the time. I kept saying, by the end of the year, we'll get a new house. By the end of the year, we're going to get, I always kept pushing it off, And a couple more months, we'll start looking, by the end of the year, we'll get a new house. And I think after a while, she kind of realized it could be no fucking house now. So.
Yep. And you kept pushing it off, then interest rates go up, the market changes, things go sideways, shit goes crazy. And I used to feel the same way. I was like, "Why? We don't need the house. We don't need to buy a house." I didn't realize how important it was to my wife. What it was really for my wife was me showing commitment in our relationship. It's like getting married. Like putting a ring on it versus just living with her. Like I tell this with guys all the time, they'll be living with a woman and they're like, "Oh, you've been together for 8, 9 years. I'm like, "Yeah, you married to her?" He's like, "Well, we don't believe in the legal court system." I'm like, "That's fine. Then you need to put a ceremony together with a ring. I don't give a fuck if Governor Newsom of the state of California says you're married." I was like, "This woman needs to know you're committed because she's after safety and security." And the house is kind of part of that too. So this winds back to a money situation, which was you didn't have enough money to buy the house that she wanted, correct?
Right.
Now, sometimes that looks like pretty shallow shit. Is that shallow for a woman to want you to make money and buy her a house?
I tell myself, yeah, but I know it's not. I know that she needs a certain level of, security and comfort.
Yep. Kenneth, did you get your wife a house? Almost unmuted on your side, bud.
There we go. Okay. Did I give her a house, the first wife?
Yeah.
No. No, I did. Lost it.
Okay. Did you get your second wife a house?
Not yet.
Not yet. Is it a money thing? Is it a money thing too?
Divorce.
Okay.
Money, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you two are doing great. Kenneth, what did you take home last year?
75.
75,000.
75K.
Okay. Israel, what did you take home last year?
42 was a shitty year.
Okay. Appreciate you two being honest. Here's a crazy piece about this. Like, is 75 the highest year that you've ever had, Israel? Or Kenneth?
No.
What's the most you've ever made in a year?
150.
And how long ago was that?
That was pre-2008.
Okay. This was over a decade ago, 12 years ago. Okay. And then Israel, what's the most you've ever taken home?
115, 115.
Okay. And when was that for you?
That was first marriage. That was when I was a stockbroker.
Okay. So it was what, like, that's like 8 years ago, 9 years ago?
Like 14, 13 years ago,
13
maybe?
years ago.
A little over 10.
Okay, got it. Okay, so these two numbers right here, Israel, when you look at 42,000, how does it make you feel about yourself?
Pretty bad.
And Kenneth, when you look at 75,000, how does it make you feel about yourself?
Inadequate.
How many of you in the chat right now, when you look at your number for yourself from this last year, like it's slightly fucking irritating? Type in fuck in the chat if you look at your number for yourself and you're like, fuck this number. This number drives me nuts. I can't understand what the fuck's going on. Now, here's the hard part as men, right? And like I used to get so pissed at my wife because Israel, like my wife would come at me about the house too because we had our house and we lost everything. And then we didn't have a house for like 10 years. 9 years we rented, which was not a problem. I was renting, but I wouldn't buy because we weren't sure if we were going to stay together. And it was like this constant thing back and forth. And she was constantly writing me, bro. Give me a house, give me a house. I'm like, no, which really in the back of my mind was, I don't know if I'm committed to her. It was also a money thing. I was stressed out about the money and I was like stressed. It was just a lot of stories going on in my head. But I got to this place where I was like, had this like super anger with my wife and I was like, you just treat me like an ATM machine. And then she looked at me and she said, will you treat me like a fucking prostitute? I was like, oh shit. I kind of just want you for your vagina and you want me for money. Yet inherently, that's kind of part of how it goes. Kenneth, your wife wants you to make money so that you can provide what?
A living, a family, a life.
Safety.
Security.
Security. And here's what I've noticed. A man who can provide safety and security and learns the art of seduction has unlimited sex. Unlimited. But safety and security isn't just money, it's something else. What else is it, Israel? It's money for sure. Money's part of it. If you guys are falling short on the money train, do not be surprised if your wife's not all over you. It's not because she's a bitch either. It's because part of her DNA, once particularly if she's got children, is, can I trust this man? I've committed to this one penis. Can this man take care of me? Can he take care of my children? If you're past the age of 30, below 30, these girls don't give a shit. They just want to have a party. Above the age of 30, though, it's a totally different game. These women are looking for safety and security. Your penis is not that attractive to them. It's not. We're like, oh, look at my cock. No, she doesn't care. What she's looking for is safety and security. So if you can't provide it, then what happens at the sex game, Israel?
You don't get it.
You don't get it.
You know, and I understand it too. Like, why would she want to sleep with, you know, someone who A, she can't trust, and B, she can't count on, you know?
Go. Now add to the mix. If we had you two, Kenneth, you stand naked in front of the mirror tonight after you take a shower and you look at yourself. When you see your body naked in the mirror, how do you feel about it?
Horrible.
And Israel, when you stand
Disappointed.
in front of the mirror tonight after taking a shower and you look at yourself naked, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, kind of horrible too. I gained like 30 pounds last year. So I got to lose all that, you know, going forward. But yeah, I actually did that the other day and I was like, oh shit. You know, like step on a scale and I was like, wow.
Yup. And the crazy part is we take this, right? So provide a couple things. Have a body that you don't really feel powerful in. Have a bank account you don't really feel powerful in. And the crazy part is, like, at that point, I really wanted, like, to be connected. I wanted to feel wanted, and I wanted to feel like a man. But, like, what I was delivering up to my wife was, I'm broke and I'm unfuckable. And then I'm wondering why my wife isn't so turned on to me. We were looking at pictures of me, like, back in, like, 2008 and 9, and I looked at my wife and I was like, holy shit. No wonder. She's like, I know. It was unbearable. Like, I didn't even know how to, like, even process. She's like, you disgusted me. And it wasn't my body as much as it was my energy. What do you think I mean by that, Israel?
Well, I think if you're overweight or your body's in you know, whatever condition it is, you're not going to have that type of energy. Like, I don't have the energy I had just a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep. Now add to the equation a body that isn't on fire. Add to the equation a business or a job or money that is not on fire. And all of a sudden we have this formula that like does not compute. Like 1 + 1 does not equal 2. It's not going to ever add it. Like it doesn't. It's like we try to add these two up. It's like it's not going to work every time. Like the formula breaks. So to get the power back, the body is actually an access point to the power of money. How, Israel? How is it your body can actually be an access point to making more money?
Well, if I'm going to make more money, I got to work more. If I'm going to work more, I'm going to need the energy to do that. And right now, I'm not sure I have that energy to, increase my output or my effort, stuff like that. So I think I can see that now.
Yep.
Now that I'm on the other side of it, like, wow, I gained 30 pounds, and that's why I've been like really tired in the middle of the day. That's why I've been like, not being able to stay up till fucking midnight just in New Year's.
Yep.
I just don't have the energy.
Yep. How many can relate to what Israel's talking about in the chat? Type it in there, me. Type in me in the chat if you can relate to this. It's crazy because, again, dude, like I'm not like some guy who just showed up last week. I've been doing this for 10 years, Israel, and I've watched amazing men like you and Kenneth come through here, through Warrior, for a long time. I've watched men like you two walk in here, as you are right now, and within 2 to 3 years of living this way, be exiting companies at 120 million. With marriages that are on fire. Fit as fuck, weaponized as hell. Nobody can even recognize these men. This isn't like a sometime thing. This happens. And even if we move away from the money and the dollar figure, and we move to a place where we're saying just guys that are now making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and they were making $60,000, $70,000 a year, and they're fit, and their marriages, sometimes their marriages don't work out. Because the crazy part is, Israel, when you light yourself on fire, if we shredded you down, how tall are you, Israel?
6 foot.
6 foot. How much you weigh right now?
235.
235. So we shred you down to like 185. If you shred down to 185 and you made 500,000 this year, you wouldn't even be the same human being. Like, you wouldn't be on the right. You might not even want to be in the marriage you're in. That's the crazier part. Yeah. You might not, like, because that guy that you are right now is in a place of desperation to get her back, or I want to be in a place that I want this marriage. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I do know the guy at 185 pounds and makes 500,000. That guy operates, thinks, and is doing life differently. That guy's getting attention from women in a totally different way. That guy's walking down the street totally different. That guy doesn't walk into my office different. That guy walks in as a different human being. Respect, power, honor, and yourself. Right now, though, the guy that walks in like a guy that works for the city. Well, this guy must be a bookkeeper for the city. Not a king, not dominating. But the version of you that is, he's in there. When was the last time you felt like you dominated? Like in life?
Probably about 4 years ago.
Okay. What was going on during the 4 years ago that's different than now?
I was running a digital marketing agency, and I had a lot of clients, and I was out out and about, hanging out with people, schmoozing, all that kind of stuff. And I felt important and I guess powerful, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. Felt important, which is great. Felt powerful. And what happened? How did this stop?
COVID.
Okay.
The lockdown just killed me.
Okay. So, a lot of people during that same time in the digital marketing space fucking dominated.
Yeah.
I mean, consumption of the internet products and like digital marketing became even more relevant. And the fun part is guys who were in Warrior at that time that were running agencies were able to play. We played this entire game called COVID Kings. And we were pivoting everybody's fucking psychology from like complosion and like suffering. And I run 1,000+ hairstylists, hundreds of salons across the country. And our girls were non-essential and being shut down. And we shut down on the first round. And the second round, we told no one to shut down and legaled up. And our girls just kept going. Our whole job was to get people to move fucking forward, no matter what. And in that space, the digital marketing guys here took over. They started buying up other agencies, started buying up customers, and became like giants in the industry now. After 3 years, went from making a couple $100,000 a year to making 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year take home. Because of a shift of perspective. When COVID hit, they went a different direction. This is when we went nuclear too. In all of my companies, we went nuclear because everybody panicked.
Yeah.
So, do you want to get back to this power?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're fucking here. Kenneth, if you could have it the way you wanted next year, the end of this year, what would be true about your money game for you?
About what?
What would be true for you and Kenneth? I'm asking the same question. If you could have it the way you wanted it to be, this time, next year, 2024, 1 year from now, you were making the money that you know you, like this amount of money to have you go, holy shit, and don't give me some network marketing number, I'll make $1 billion in recurring revenue every single month. Like a number. What's the number for both of you?
2 years, probably.
End of this year, just 12 months.
End of this year. I'd like to get back to 6 figures this year, at least.
Okay. So 120K. Kenneth, what's your number?
I want to get back to what I made before, 150.
The rest of you, type your number in the chat. What's your number that you know you get to this number at the end of this year, you're going to be in a good place for you mentally. I can't make up this number for you. Like, you got to know this number. I don't know what your number is. The number is different for everybody based on where you live, what you want, what your life, what your expense load looks like, etc. Like, the numbers are different. We got 125,000, Valid 100K, Nick at 350, Matt Hoffman 175, Tim at 200, Michael at 115, Michael Delago, Jorge at 150,000. You can see the numbers coming in. If you could have things the way you wanted them, Israel, in your relationship, what would that look like into this year?
I want to be in a committed, loving relationship. Now, whether that's with my wife or someone else, I don't know. But
okay.
This last year or so being alone really sucks.
It's not fun. It's not fun. It's very frustrating. And even if you got discipline and us like suck your life away into porn, it's still very lonely. And the worst part is like a porn just becomes this hollow like charade of insanity that like just fucking fucks people up, dude. Fuck me up. Fucks guys up. It's like a rough deal. So we want to be in a committed, loving relationship. Okay, Kenneth, what about you?
I want to get a spark back with my wife. See that look in her eye. She looks at me.
Yes.
And know about the man.
Yes, I want sensual connection with the queen again. We had people come up to me and my wife in Vegas this weekend at New Year's, and they couldn't believe it. They just thought we were like she was like some side girlfriend, and like I was cheating on my wife with this woman, and left. They were like, "Hey, how long have you two been like hooking up?" And I was like, "I've been with this woman for 22 years. We've been married." They're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, we've been together over 2 decades." How is that even possible? Kenneth, I wanted exactly what you're talking about. And that's really what Israel's saying too. Both of you. So the question is, how are you going to pull this off? And it's not just that. It's like the body, it's everything. I'm going to let you two go, and I appreciate you both sharing with me. Thank you so much. Give a hell yes in the chat for both of our guys for jumping on and giving us some shares today. It's a big deal. Thank you, gentlemen, both of you. Like, it takes courage to be able to step in and be this fucking honest, and it's exactly how things work around here. This is what Warrior Launch is all about. Warrior is a company and a program and a process, a software and a coursework and a curriculum. It's a proven methodology for you to have two of the most important things in life: money and an intimate, sexual, committed relationship with a woman that you desire. Like, these two sit at the top. After that comes a relationship with your kids. After that comes a deep, connected relationship with and purpose with life. But we're not here to like to fuck around. Like, Warrior's very, very clear that there are two things that have to be had, and that is the conversation of sex and the conversation of success and money. If you don't have these two things going on, sex and success in the conversation of money, life doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You can be a great dad, you're still gonna be hollow and alone. You're still gonna be hollow and alone. Like it took it, like we come to people like people like, you kind of crashed, dude. Why are you saying that? It's like, no, I'm real with what goes on with men. If men are not getting laid and men are not getting paid, it doesn't matter. There's only one purpose this man has going on in his mind, and he's trying to figure out how to get laid or how to get paid more. And most often he thinks if he gets paid more, then he'll get laid more. How many of you agree with what I'm talking about? Type in me in the chat. If you get this baseline, very primal bull in the field, running around like a fucking wild man, this is primal nature of who we are as guys. Laid and paid. It's not bad. It's great. It's fantastic. And coming to terms with this is important, right? And this is what we want for you, because when you are satisfied in your money game and getting paid, and when you're satisfied in your sexuality and you're getting laid, when these two things happen, you show up better as a father. You're a better father. You're a better husband. You're a better man. You're a better leader when you're sexually and financially satisfied. When that has put you into abundance, now we can work on other things. You can now make a difference in the world. But until those things are satisfied, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good a dad you are if you're in chaos with your wife. It doesn't matter how great a relationship you are with your wife if you have to look her in the eyes and know you can't fucking afford anything again. You can't buy the house. You can't make the financial moves. You're stressed out every day because of gas prices. If you're stressed about gas prices, you got to make more money. How many of you know that you need to make more money? Type in more. Type in more in the chat. If you know you flat out got to make more money. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're stupid or bad or broken. You just know. You're like, I got to fucking make more money. I'm sick and tired of this. This is one of the focuses of Warrior. People look at us and they say, well, what is it that goes on in Warrior Nights? It's really simple. The Warrior's Way system is a game inside of Warrior Launch where we guide you on the power of perspective. Your Warrior advisor is going to have a one-on-one conversation with you. Many of you have already set up. You were here on this call because you had a conversation with them. And now you're here to get a little bit more from me about what this is. Do not look around. Our game here is very simple. We are here to launch men into having it all. But we're very focused in the beginning on getting your perspective right using the tools and systems of the Warrior's Way, software, coursework, curriculum, access to calls, association, and a guided protocol that happens over 3 to 6 months to get you to a place to what we call the Warrior Crucible, which is a live 3-day event here in Dana Point, California with myself. But the first thing we're dealing with is perspective, because much of the way you see the world is fucked up. It's not ever going to work. The way you see the world continues to produce shitty outcomes. And so the tools here at Warrior begin with the discovery of ripping apart your perspective and helping you see a new narrative, helping you see the version of you that's 10 times bigger than you, and then hunting that guy down. How many of you know right now the biggest issue you have is your perspective? Like you just know, like you can't even see what you want to see anymore. Type in the word perspective in chat. But like you're just sitting there, you know, like you intuitively know there's a piece of you that is fucked up in what it's seeing. It's negative, it's victim-y, it's entitled, it's pouty, it's whiny. This was me in marriage and sex. I was like this whiny little bitch who never could figure it out for years. I don't understand it. It was like I was fit, I was a good-looking guy, but I was a whiny little bitch. My perspective on sex and marriage was just fucked up. Perspective follows with plan. Part of what happens inside of Warrior Launch is we put together with your Warrior advisor and our teams, we put together the exact plan following the Warrior's Way. The Warrior's Way is a daily, it is a weekly, it is a monthly, and it is an annual game. Dealt with inside of our software that I put over $8 million in, and following the step-by-step protocols inside of how to learn it and how to live it over 3 to 6 months inside of Warrior Launch. This process is proven. It's not if it works every single time. If men do the work and invest the time, the energy, and the money into doing what's required in Warrior Launch, it works every single time. For men that don't do the work, they put in the money, but they won't put in the time. I got men that say, well, I'm going to put in the time, but I won't put in the money. I was like, then you can't play. I got others like, I'll put in the money, but then they don't put in the time, or they put in the time, but they don't put in the energy, which is they don't really give a shit. They're just checking boxes. I was like, bro, like, it's not my sex life that we're at war here with. It's not my bank accounts that we need to change. It's not my leadership and my family that has to alter. It's yours. If you don't give a shit, how can I give more of a shit about your life than you do? So the first piece in this is altering perspective. The second is creating the plan. That plan itself then is followed by production, which is you actually doing what's required. Specific step-by-step that we have figured out over the last 10 years with 55,000 plus men. We figured out what works and we figured out what doesn't work. I was just on a call with one of my guys, invest 500,000 a year, just have a 45-minute phone call with me every week. He and I were talking literally right before here. I walked over here because my Lamborghini was being taken down for a smog check, and I brought an e-bike over to one of my team members from my garage. I lived 3 minutes from the office. Walked over here, brought him the e-bike, came in here and sat down with you guys. And I'm talking with him about this game, etc., about money and investing money and time and energy and time and energy. And we get to this reality together in our conversation that the biggest issue that most men face is not the money issue. It's the fact that they won't put their energy in. They won't risk everything to obtain everything. They're addicted to holding on to this little life. Part of integrating you with your warrior advisor into our culture, on our platforms, in our software, in our networks. Nobody owns this shit, we do. In our world, is we have to surround you with men who are pursuing the same shit. Because most of the men you know and most of the people you know are full of shit. And they're not going to support you in this. They're going to talk shit about this. They're going to tell you part of some fucking cult. They're going to tell you the warrior's insane, blah, 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 blah. We've heard everything for 10 years. The fun part is what that really translates out to is they're weak and terrified and are unwilling to do what you do. I'm going to get what I'm talking about. Type in, I get it. That you've been on a pursuit at times of things that matter, but people even closest to you at times, and some of you are going to have your wife fight you on this. Wife will fight you, even though this is what she wants from you. We've had thousands of women fight their husbands when their husbands made a decision to invest time, energy, and money in themselves coming into Warrior Launch. And their women are upset. Like, how dare you spend that money? How dare you not consult with me? How dare you? And I was like, bro, when are you going to stop asking for fucking permission and lead as a man? Your wife wants you to lead. She is tired of constantly having to baby you like another child. When are you going to show the fuck up in a way that has her respect you? Yes, respect you. We're not after love. It's not if your wife loves you. It's not if your kids love you. They need to respect you, but they can't respect you because you don't act respectable. You can't make decisions on a daily basis in a way that shows power and courage. And some of you, I get it, you fucked up a lot. That was me. Took me years. You don't just come back from an affair after a week. This took me years and years and years of work to repair that trust, to murder the version of me that I was, and to rebirth a new version of me that my wife could trust. Once we have the perspective, once we have the plan, now we have the production, which is the doing. And that doing itself is linked up specifically to the game of profit, which is direct results. Yes. Direct results. What are the results that we're after? We're after results across the core four. Body, being, balance, and business. It's not enough for us here for you just to get paid and get laid, because you will not be able to maintain it. You will not maintain the game if all you're doing is getting paid and laid. Your body will fall apart, your spirituality will fall apart, all of these intertwine. We need your body in order to get the money. We need your body in order to get the sex. We need your body in order to get the connection with God. We need the connection with God in order to get the body. We need the connection to God in order to get the money. We need the connection to God in order to get the relationships that you want. And people hear the way I talk and they're like, oh my God, this doesn't make any sense. How can you talk like this? This sounds like completely different than church. I was like, this is not church. If you're after church, go for church. This is not church. Yet many men call Warrior their church. You're like, well, how does that work? I was like, because many men have found God in this place. We're not the same as normal people. The men that come to this place know they're different. They weren't built the same. They don't fit in the plastic box. They're not wearing the tassel shoes. They don't fit in that box. They don't get it. How many of you know you're one of those guys? Type in me. Like you've just always kind of been on the outside a bit, kind of looking in, and most of the shit that you watch the plastic people do, you're like, I don't understand what the fuck they're doing. Like I can't do it. And I tried. I shoved myself in a plastic box for almost 10 years. And I tried it, and I was filled with rage and anger and irritation, discontentment, and being so upset at myself. This is what you're going to discuss with your warrior advisor. Many of you have already had that conversation, and now this is an opportunity for you to discuss it deeper and going into Warrior Launch with us. We call it Warrior Launch because that's what we do. We launch you towards this promised land. The ultimate outcome for us beyond the profit is the purpose, and the purpose is really, really simple. The purpose is freedom. Men say, what is the outcome ultimately of Wake Up Warrior? What is the ultimate ideal for a man here? It is for him to become ultimately autonomous and free. Free. The biggest issue you're going to face here at Warrior is an interesting one. It's when this game works. It's like Robert Kiyosaki is one of my original mentors in the game of money and business. He said, Garrett, one of the biggest problems is going to be you making money. He's like, people think that not having money is a problem. He said, they think that's the problem. They think that not having money is the problem. This is because most people don't have money. He said, you'll find out real quickly that making a lot of money is far more stressful than having money, than having no money. There's way more stress in being wealthy than there is in being broke. When you're broke, you have no fucking options. It's like me talking to my parents. My mom and dad were broke my whole life. So my mom looks at our lives and I'm like, well, why did you buy your kids that? I said, listen, you could always tell me no because you didn't have any money. We had cornbread, Ma. We had powdered milk. You had no money. When I never came to you because you literally had no money. We barely had money for food. My kids are raised in a $25 million home with $2 million of cars in the garage. They go on private jets. They have private drivers. They live in a world that's different. I face a level of chaos that's very different than what you raised me in, but I built that life. I want you to face those problems. We joke around here, Warrior, our greatest outcome is for you to have tax problems. And once you do, we got fixes for that. We work here inside of the Warrior Launch program to give you the foundational tools that will set you up to be free. Beyond Warrior Launch is our Warrior Councils, where hundreds of our men gather every single week and every month in person and virtually in hybrid experiences, taking and leveraging what they've learned in the game of power to explode life, because the game cannot get bigger than you are. Your money is directly affected by how much you rise. Your marriage and sex life directly impacted by how much you rise. Your love and connection with your children directly connected to how much you rise. And we have figured out how to do this systematically, predictably, every single day in a simple science known as the Warrior's Way. And Warrior Launch is your place to learn it and learn how to live it and learn how to leverage it in order to build wealth, money, time, energy, abundantly. It's interesting doing these conversations because I know every time that we do a call like this, there are 4 or 5 of you who are going to know it's time to go and you'll shrink. You won't go. You won't reach back out to your advisor. You won't, if you haven't reached out to an advisor and somehow you ended up on this call and you've not filled out an application, we're dropping a link here. Do it. Don't let yourself back out of this situation. Give yourself a fucking shot. People hear how much we charge for things. Dude, we've been charging $10,000 at the gate of this game, and some of you are like, I can't afford it. Give yourself a fucking shot and get in a conversation. More than 60% of the case studies that have ever come through Warrior are men that had the story in their head when they initially came to this point with us, when said, I can't afford it. I don't know how to do that. I said, it's not if you can't afford it. It's about you getting committed to making it happen. And you're going to have to do that over and over and over again. It's not luck. That's why people at some level get turned off by Warrior, because we're the first ones to say it's your fucking fault. We're not using direct response marketing as it's not your fault. It is your fault. But you can fix it. Your body, your fault, and using the Warrior's Way tools, you can fix it. Your being, a relationship with God or lack thereof, it's your fault and you can fix it, and we will show you how. Your current relationship with your wife and lack of sex or intimacy that you desire or communication and connection, it's your fault and we can show you how to fix it. Your money and the way you deal with marketing, sales, systems, and your psychology around dealing with money, it is what it is because of you. It's your fault, but we can fix it. And I say we because that's what Warrior is. Warrior's always been a community of men who come together under one simple premise: telling the fucking truth and living the way. There are some of you watching that you know this is what you needed. You needed this conversation. You needed to see this. Israel and Kenneth were given an opportunity. They're given an opportunity to sit, to talk. It's not because I'm some special guy, but it wasn't accidental. Both of them are going to be a choice. Do they move forward into launch? Everything in their minds can be an excuse. I didn't make enough money. I don't have this. I'm like, dude, Israel's in a situation. His wife has left him. He's 35 pounds overweight. What options does he fucking have, really? Some of you fuckers need to just put your back against the wall, grab the fucking football, and throw it deep. Like, you just got to start doubling down, taking some chances on you. It's not going to magically show up on your front door. And unlike any other environment you could ever possibly find outside of Warrior, this place is going to accept everything for who you are today, and then we're going to call you to rise to the level you know you have been born to be at. And when you get to that level, we're going to celebrate, and then we're going to call you to rise again. But to get there, there are some fundamental tools of operating with perspective and planning and production and profit and purpose that have to be mastered. If you can get these tools into your world, the future that you create economically and intimately is unlimited. You don't get these tools figured out, you're going to be sitting here a year from now, and shit going to be different. At all. Warrior Launch is the greatest thing we've ever put together. The truth is, this program, Warrior Launch, was something we easily could charge $40,000 to $50,000 for. You understand, you're not the first guy to come to this place. I didn't just start Warrior last week. The New York Post called me and Warrior the initiators of the industry of masculinity. Lions Not Sheep, Apex. You run the lineup of men's programs that currently exist, and these men were all students of mine here at Wake Up Warrior. There's a movement happening with men. And brothers, if this is your place, it's your time and it's now. And if it's not here, then you need to get the fuck out of here and go find your place and wake the fuck up and go. How many of you know right now that this is home and it needs to be home and you got to find a way? Type in hell yes in the chat if you know. It's not for everybody by any stretch of the imagination. I had somebody interview me and ask me, they said, well, can everybody have it all? I said, hell no, not everyone can have it all. Well, can all men be powerful like you're talking about? I said, absolutely not. Most men are too weak. Most men are too asleep. Most men are too gone. There's no possible fucking chance for them. This is why the statement, let the dead bury their dead, is such a powerful statement. If you're dead, we're just going to let you die. But if you're alive and you want to live, brothers, you got a chance. If you haven't completed your application, we're going to drop that link in here again. Get it completed. You'll have a conversation with one of our advisors about the Warrior Launch program. They're going to walk through a customized conversation with you about how this can play out. They're going to look at your personal situation and see how we can help you find a way into the game with us. And then you're going to join us on the other side. Right now, launch calls are happening right now in one of our other studios. We got hundreds of guys that are currently training together in environments with our trainers, working through the curriculum of the Warrior's Way, mastering the tools so they can leverage it into the wealth and the intimacy they want. There's a stage of learning that has to happen, then a stage of living, then a stage of leveraging. But it all begins with a conversation today. If you've already had that conversation with your advisor and he invited you here to this call to be part of this week, fantastic. Then get back with him again, go have a conversation with him today, and go move forward. Get your ass in here. We've got some things and gifts available for those who choose to move forward with us today that your advisor will tell you all about. Some things you can take, including this Warrior Box and a few other tools that we want to make sure that you have available to you. But for today, know this. I care about you. I do. But I'm not going to care more about you than you care about you. You'll find out real quickly here at Warrior. We'll run into the gates of hell with you, and we'll shine the light into the areas that you need to change. And we'll stand there while you change them, and then we'll run the fuck out of hell with you. And there's no place you'll go that will do like we will do with you. But we won't do it for you. And we will not save you. Because if I do the work for you, then it's my victory, not yours. If I do all of this work and you do none, then it's my victory, not yours. And in the end, brother, I need you to stand in victory. I need you to stand butt-ass naked in front of the mirror looking at yourself and proud of the fucking man you see physically. I want you to have had sex this morning with your wife in a way that makes your mind bend backwards and has you love and crave after the soul of this woman. I want you standing as a powerful leader to your children, with kids that want you to be home, with kids who look to you as a standard as a father across all the fathers they know from their friends. I want you to be in a place with God every single day, beyond religion, beyond scripture, beyond all the dogma, the tradition, and the bullshit. Direct communion with your Father, communicating in a way that lets you lead with power and authority. A mastery over the conversation of money and understanding how to make it, to grow it, and to keep it. Brother, if you will play this game, it fucking works every single time. Give yourself a shot. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not Dean Graziosi. I'm not a happy clappy trainer. I'm not Joel Osteen. I'm not any of these guys. They're all great. This is fucking Warrior. We play different. We've been different. We've proven ourselves for a decade that this game works. The question is not if it works. The question is if you're going to move forward and play with us today. Well, man, connect with your advisor for being here, and or click on the link and get yourself into an application, a conversation with one of our advisors today. If today was a call that you know you needed, type in fire in the chat so I know it. Give me a little fire in the chat if you know this is a call that you needed. And if you were a hell yes and it's time for you to move forward, gentlemen, let's fucking go. And I'll see you inside of the next upcoming Warrior Launch experience. That's all I got for you. This is Garrett J. White signing off saying love and light. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.